Hollywood has always loved its secrets, but sometimes the smallest, simplest comment can spark a wildfire of curiosity. That's exactly what happened when Betty White, the beloved television icon who has charmed audiences for decades, casually hinted at something about Cary Grant that reignited decades of whispers. At 93, her words carried weight not because they were definitive, but because they were Betty, forthright, humorous, and impossible to ignore. She didn't present herself as a detective or insider. She simply let slip what she had heard over the years. And in Hollywood, even a whisper from a figure like Betty White can echo like thunder. During a chat that seemed casual on the surface, Betty brought up Cary Grant in a way that immediately captured attention. She suggested that there was a long-standing rumor in the industry about him, one that had been passed around in whispers backstage, in dressing rooms, and at late-night parties during Hollywood's golden age. The comment itself was indirect, carefully phrased, almost conversational. She didn't say, Cary Grant was this or that. Instead, she framed it as speculation she had heard, acknowledging that she had no personal confirmation. That subtle phrasing is crucial because it distinguishes a rumor from a claim while still feeding the natural curiosity of audiences. And curiosity, in the world of YouTube storytelling, is everything. The context of her remark also matters. Betty White was never one to engage in mean-spirited gossip. Her career and her persona were built on warmth, wit, and charm. So when she mentioned something potentially eyebrow-raising about Cary Grant, it wasn't intended to scandalize. It was to reveal a slice of Hollywood life that most audiences would never see. The mere suggestion that Cary Grant's personal life might have had hidden complexities was enough to ignite speculation. It made people lean in closer, as if leaning closer would allow them to catch a glimpse of the man behind the carefully crafted smile, tuxedo, and silver screen persona. Her comment also highlights a larger truth about Hollywood culture in the mid-20th century. For decades, stars were expected to maintain a certain image, often at the expense of their personal truths. Betty's remark wasn't an accusation or an exposé. It was an acknowledgement that Hollywood is always at shadows where public and private lives diverge. In that sense, her statement was less about Cary Grant and more about the world he inhabited, a world that was glamorous, competitive, and often intensely secretive. Yet, even framed delicately, her words had the power to surprise. People loved her for her candor and sincerity, which made the remark land differently than if it had come from a tabloid journalist. Betty's unique authority and credibility transformed a passing remark into a cultural event, sending fans and historians alike rushing to interpret, debate, and re-examine the life of one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures. Her words were a spark, subtle, polite, almost casual, but capable of lighting a fire of intrigue that still burns today. Even though Betty White didn't claim to have the full story, her hint reminded audiences that no matter how much we think we know about stars like Cary Grant, the truth is often layered, complex, and at times tantalizingly just out of reach. That delicate balance between what we see and what we only suspect is exactly why her comment captivated hearts and headlines alike. When Betty White's subtle hint about Cary Grant made waves, fans immediately turned to the people closest to him, hoping for clarity. Among them, the perspective of Jennifer Grant, Cary's only child, carries a unique weight. She grew up under the public gaze, yet with a personal insight into a man whose life was famously private. Unlike Hollywood gossip columnists or casual fans, Jennifer had the intimate view of a daughter watching her father navigate fame, love, and secrecy. And her response to the swirling rumors revealed not just facts or the lack thereof, but a mindset that embraced curiosity, respect, and nuance. Jennifer Grant approached the subject with a careful balance. She stated that she personally never noticed any romantic attraction her father had toward men. Cary Grant, according to her, wasn't flirtatious or suggestive in a way that would have hinted at hidden desires. To those looking for confirmation or scandal, her words might initially feel like a denial. Yet, the phrasing is critical. She didn't claim to know the totality of her father's inner life. Instead, she acknowledged her limited perspective, admitting that some parts of his life were private even from her. That distinction is important because it shifts the conversation from speculation to an understanding of boundaries, what a child can know versus what history might guess. Her perspective carries a quiet, almost understated authority. Jennifer's statement, sometimes described in media coverage as open-minded or accepting, reflects a thoughtful acknowledgement of her father's complexity. She even made a striking remark, suggesting that if Cary Grant did have a private life that included same-sex relationships, she hoped he found happiness in them. That sentiment is significant. It reframes the discussion from judgment or scandal to empathy and respect. She doesn't treat these speculations as fodder for outrage or rumor-mongering. Instead, she sees them as facets of a person she loved and admired. This approach also reflects the generational and cultural shift in how we discuss sexuality and identity. While Hollywood's golden age often demanded strict adherence to heterosexual norms, Jennifer speaks from a modern lens, recognizing that personal truths don't always align with public expectations. Her measured acknowledgement challenges the audience to consider the difference between public image and private reality, and why understanding someone fully requires looking beyond the headlines. For viewers, this makes her contribution more than commentary. It's a lesson in empathy, critical thinking, and the complexities of human identity. Jennifer's comments also deepen the mystery rather than resolving it. While she didn't affirm any rumors, her openness underscores the possibility that Cary Grant's private life may have included aspects unknown even to his family. That uncertainty adds a compelling layer to the story, keeping audiences engaged because the narrative doesn't provide tidy conclusions. Instead, it mirrors the real-life complexity of individuals, especially iconic figures who balance fame with personal desire and discretion. In the end, Jennifer Grant's perspective emphasizes that understanding someone like Cary Grant isn't about uncovering a scandalous secret. It's about recognizing the richness and privacy of a life lived under the spotlight. Her voice brings both credibility and compassion to the story, reminding viewers that even when celebrity myths abound, empathy and context are crucial. And while Betty White's hint sparks curiosity, Jennifer's reflection tempers it with humanity, guiding the audience to think about what they really know and what they may never know about one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. While Betty White's hint and Jennifer Grant's measured perspective set the stage, the story took a sharper turn when Bill Royce, a longtime Hollywood insider and former publicist, weighed in. Royce isn't just any commentator. He spent decades navigating the inner workings of Tinseltown, rubbing elbows with actors, directors, and producers during Hollywood's golden era. His words carry a certain authority because he witnessed the industry from behind the curtain, where rumors often intersected with reality, and image management was a high-stakes game. Royce didn't approach the topic lightly. He recalled conversations with colleagues who had known Cary Grant personally, noting that there were recurring whispers about the actor's private life. Whispers that, at the time, were carefully contained and rarely reported. According to Royce, the challenge was that Grant maintained an immaculate public persona. He was charming, impeccably dressed, and masterfully controlled in interviews and appearances. But behind the scenes, Royce suggested, there were aspects of his life that even his closest colleagues only partially glimpsed. These glimpses, Royce argued, hinted at complexities that didn't align neatly with the public narrative of Cary as the quintessential Hollywood leading man. What makes Royce's account especially compelling is the way he frames it. Not as an accusation, but as an insider's observation. He recounts stories of after-parties and private gatherings where people would speculate in hushed tones, aware that Grant's image was carefully protected. There were anecdotes of friendships that seemed more intense than casual camaraderie, and private moments that fueled speculation. Royce emphasizes that these weren't scandal sheets or tabloid fodder. They were quiet acknowledgments among Hollywood professionals who understood the delicate balance between personal truth and public persona. And what happened next would shock everyone who assumed Cary Grant's life was entirely transparent. Royce's revelations also highlight the pressures faced by Hollywood stars during that era. Studios had enormous power over an actor's image, often arranging marriages, managing dating rumors, and suppressing anything that could disrupt a carefully constructed persona. Royce makes it clear that if Grant had aspects of his personal life that didn't fit the norm, he was operating in an environment that actively discouraged disclosure. This context is critical because it shifts the focus from speculation about Grant's private choices to a broader understanding of the structural pressures that shaped Hollywood itself. It's a reminder that secrecy wasn't merely personal, it was institutional. Perhaps the most intriguing element of Royce's account is the suggestion that even those closest to Cary Grant weren't fully aware of the entirety of his life. He recalls colleagues were confounded by inconsistencies between Grant's public charm and private relationships, leading to quiet debates behind closed doors. Royce doesn't sensationalize these observations. He simply presents them as patterns he witnessed over years in the industry. And yet, despite the ambiguity, these patterns create a compelling narrative. The image of Cary Grant, so polished and perfect on screen, might have masked a life far more layered, complicated, and human than most fans could imagine. Ultimately, Bill Royce's insight adds texture and depth to the story. While Betty White's hint sparks curiosity and Jennifer Grant offers a compassionate lens, Royce provides the insider context that makes the rumors feel tangible. He reminds us that Hollywood's glittering surface often hides shadows and complexities, and that iconic figures like Cary Grant are more than the sum of their screen performances. His revelations don't answer every question, but they deepen the intrigue, encouraging viewers to reconsider what they know about one of the most enigmatic stars of Hollywood's golden age. The story of Cary Grant isn't just about one man. It's about the era he embodied. Hollywood's golden age, spanning the 1930s through the 1960s, was a world of glitz, glamour, and relentless control. Stars like Grant were expected to project perfection, charming, untouchable, and consistently appealing to mass audiences. Yet behind the bright lights and red carpets, the studio system cultivated secrecy like an art form. Publicity departments managed not just careers, but entire personal narratives, carefully scripting who actors dated, who they married, and what audiences were allowed to believe. In this environment, private lives were frequently edited, censored, and sometimes entirely rewritten. Cary Grant's life, as one of Hollywood's most beloved leading men, perfectly illustrates this phenomenon. He was a master of both charm and discretion, presenting an impeccable image to the world. Fans saw only what the studio allowed: smiles for cameras, witty quips in interviews, and perfectly rehearsed public appearances. Yet rumors whispered in back corridors and at exclusive parties suggested a more complicated reality. Colleagues who moved in the same circles often noted inconsistencies between his public persona and the private man they glimpsed in quieter moments. These observations were rarely documented publicly, but they contributed to a hidden narrative that continues to intrigue historians and fans alike. Secrecy in this era wasn't merely about hiding scandal. It was about control and survival. Studios often manipulated marriages, suppressed relationships, and discouraged any hint of behavior that could be considered unacceptable by the era's moral standards. The pressures were immense. One misstep could derail a career overnight. In this context, any personal choices that deviated from societal expectations, especially regarding relationships or sexuality, had to be carefully managed. This culture of secrecy explains why even close friends and family sometimes knew little about the full picture, creating gaps that fueled speculation decades later. Yet the very mechanisms of secrecy also created fascination. Fans, eager for insight, began to read between the lines of interviews, magazine features, and gossip columns, searching for clues about the private lives of stars. In Grant's case, the contrast between his polished on-screen persona and the private realities hinted at in whispers created enduring mystery. Every reported romance, every public appearance with a partner, and every carefully crafted comment to the press became fodder for speculation. The curiosity surrounding him wasn't driven solely by scandal. It was driven by the human desire to understand someone who seemed almost too perfect, almost untouchable, and therefore all the more compelling. This era of Hollywood also highlights the broader dynamics of fame and identity. Stars like Grant were celebrated for their charisma and beauty, but they were often constrained by invisible rules that dictated what they could reveal about themselves. The secrecy surrounding personal life, romantic relationships, and private inclinations was not just a personal choice. It was a strategic necessity in a world obsessed with image. For modern audiences, this contrast between public persona and private reality makes the story far more compelling. It's a reminder that history often preserves the surface while leaving the deeper truths to be discovered, and sometimes to remain forever tantalizingly out of reach. Understanding Hollywood's golden age secrets gives context to Betty White's remark, Jennifer Grant's perspective, and Bill Royce's insights. It frames the speculation not as baseless gossip, but as part of a larger, intricate dance between image, identity, and privacy, a dance that Cary Grant navigated masterfully, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire curiosity today. While Hollywood's golden age set the stage for secrecy, it's the rumors themselves that keep Cary Grant's story alive today. Over the decades, whispers circulated, sometimes subtle, sometimes more pointed, about the private dimensions of his life. These rumors often originated from colleagues, acquaintances, or those who observed the man behind the perfectly tailored suits and charming smiles. And while no definitive evidence ever emerged, the persistence of these speculations adds an almost magnetic layer of intrigue to his legacy. One of the most discussed aspects involves Grant's romantic life. Publicly, he married 5 times, with each relationship receiving intense media attention. But behind closed doors, some industry insiders hinted at friendships and bonds that seemed more intimate than casual. In certain Hollywood circles, subtle gestures, lingering glances, and private conversations fuel conjecture. These whispers weren't sensationalized tabloids. They were observations from people who interacted with him regularly. And while we must tread carefully, these repeated patterns suggest there was more complexity to his private life than the public record shows. Another angle of speculation revolves around Grant's friendships with other prominent male actors and creatives of his time. Biographers and historians note that some of these connections were unusually close, marked by a level of trust and emotional intimacy uncommon even among lifelong friends. While it's impossible to claim any definitive conclusions, the intensity of these relationships adds to perception that Grant's personal life may have included dimensions carefully shielded from the public eye. The key is that the speculation isn't rooted in scandal for scandal's sake. It arises from the tension between public image and private reality. Media and public fascination with Grant's personal life also reflects broader societal dynamics. In an era when deviations from heteronormative expectations were often hidden or dismissed, even subtle hints of unconventional behavior became amplified in the public imagination. This is where Betty White's remark gains resonance. It wasn't a random comment, but gnawed at the layers beneath the surface of someone who was, on the outside, nearly mythic. Jennifer Grant's cautious approach and Bill Royce's insider insights fit into this puzzle, framing rumors not as facts but as part of the broader mystery surrounding an iconic figure. What makes these speculations so compelling is their ambiguity. There's no smoking gun, no sensational confession, no public revelation that definitively resolves the questions. Instead, the audience is left to piece together fragments from anecdotes, interviews, and subtle hints, much like a detective tracing faint footprints through history. The tension between certainty and doubt keeps people engaged. It's a human attraction to mystery, magnified by the celebrity lens. And this very ambiguity allows each retelling, like our video today, to captivate viewers anew, prompting them to wonder what really lay beneath the suave charm of Hollywood's ultimate leading man. Ultimately, the rumors and speculation surrounding Cary Grant highlight something fundamental: the difference between myth and reality, between public persona and private self. They remind us that iconic figures are rarely one-dimensional, and that even the most carefully curated lives can hold secrets, unanswered questions, and unexpected dimensions. For viewers, these stories are compelling not because they confirm anything scandalous, but because they hint at the human complexity hidden behind a legendary smile, a complexity that continues to fascinate decades after the final curtain. Cary Grant's story isn't just a collection of rumors or whispered secrets. It's a masterclass in the art of maintaining privacy in an era where fame often demanded complete exposure. His ability to navigate Hollywood's glare with poise and discretion left a lasting mark on the industry, shaping how audiences and actors alike think about charisma, charm, and personal boundaries. Even decades after his death, the mystique surrounding him continues to capture imaginations, proving that there's a powerful allure in what remains unseen. At the heart of this legacy is Grant's impeccable sense of timing and presentation. He seemed to understand instinctively which aspects of his life to reveal and which to protect. Publicly, he offered charm, wit, and sophistication, an image meticulously polished by studios and reinforced by his own careful choices. Privately, he maintained control over his relationships, his emotional world, and his personal truths, sharing only what he deemed safe or appropriate. This duality created a tension that fans found endlessly compelling. The man on screen was a fantasy, but the man off screen was human, complex, and deliberately guarded. The lessons from Grant's approach extend beyond celebrity culture. In today's world, where personal lives are increasingly public through social media, his example highlights the value of discretion. He demonstrated that being admired doesn't require complete transparency, and that carefully curated boundaries can enhance, rather than diminish, a public persona. His life illustrates that mystery, when handled thoughtfully, becomes part of a person's charm and influence, drawing curiosity without resorting to sensationalism. And what happened next in Hollywood would make many stars reconsider how they navigated fame themselves. Betty White's reflections decades later underscore this legacy. Her insight wasn't scandalous. It was a recognition of the depth and subtlety that Grant carried throughout his life. Jennifer Grant's more measured comments reinforce the same point. The allure lies not in overt revelation, but in the careful balance between what is known and what is hidden. Even Bill Royce's insider anecdotes serve to illustrate how few truly understood the private dimensions of Grant's life. Together, these perspectives emphasize a key truth. The combination of talent, discretion, and strategic mystery can create a lasting impact that resonates long after the spotlight fades. This legacy also touches on a broader cultural fascination. Grant's life encourages us to think critically about the distinction between public performance and private reality. It reminds us that fame doesn't always equate to transparency, and that some of the most compelling stories emerge not from what is revealed, but from what is intentionally preserved. For viewers, this tension between curiosity and respect for boundaries keeps the story alive, inviting endless exploration and speculation. It's a lesson in both storytelling and human psychology. We are drawn to figures who reveal selectively, who maintain an air of mystery while still inspiring admiration and affection. In the end, Cary Grant's life is a testament to the enduring power of privacy, charm, and careful self-curation. His legacy shows that the most intriguing stories are often those that leave room for imagination, allowing each generation to reinterpret, question, and marvel at the person behind the image. For audiences today, this story isn't merely historical. It's a reminder of the timeless allure of grace, discretion, and enigmatic brilliance, a legacy that continues to captivate hearts and minds decades after his final bow. Cary Grant's story is more than a tale of fame. It's a glimpse into the delicate dance between public persona and private reality. From whispered rumors to carefully guarded relationships, his life reminds us that mystery can be as powerful as charisma, and discretion can be as compelling as spectacle. Hollywood's golden age created the perfect backdrop for this duality, where image was everything, and yet what remained unseen often became the most intriguing. Betty White's candid remark, Jennifer Grant's careful reflections, and insider perspectives like Bill Royce's all point to the same truth. The man behind the iconic smile was complex, enigmatic, and deliberately private. Rumors may swirl, speculations may linger, but it's the balance of charm and secrecy that cements his legacy. Cary Grant didn't just act on screen. He performed the art of living with grace, leaving enough unspoken to fuel curiosity for generations. In a world where so much of celebrity life is exposed, Grant's example is a reminder that not everything needs to be revealed to leave an impact. Sometimes, what's left unsaid speaks louder than any headline. His story captivates not because it's fully known, but because it's partially hidden, leaving room for imagination, admiration, and wonder. If you found this story fascinating, Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more untold tales from Hollywood's past. There's always another secret waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss it.